Champions survive when the fire inside them burns brighter than the fire around them. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Sports for Champions podcast. Today I'm joined by GB athlete Adele Nicoll. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So I'd like to start today. Most athletes grow up dreaming of competing at the highest level in one sport, and you've actually competed in two. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Well, I've had a dream for a long time of being the first person to compete in 3 or 4.
Wow.
So I'm on my way. I'm halfway there. I ended up doing bobsleigh through a message that I received off of Misha McNeil, who was the pilot of my 2-woman bobsleigh team. And I had previously been an international in athletics before that. I started athletics when I was 9 years old, and I started my athletic career with no other ambition other than being an international athlete. From a very young age, I wanted that, and apparently when I was 4 years old, I was watching the Olympics on TV, and I told my mum that that's where I wanted to be one day. So most people probably get involved at age 9 just wanting to have fun, but I was there for serious business.
That's amazing. Is there anything in particular that you specialised in at that age, or something that you saw yourself going into?
No, I think it's really important actually to emphasise the fact that when I was 9, I did multi-sports and multi-events, and I did lots of other sports as well as athletics at that point. But I believe athletics, especially doing the multi-events, gives you such a good base to go forwards in whatever sport you want to do. So I did do the heptathlon and the pentathlon at a young age, and only specialised in the throws at about age 14.
Wow, that's amazing. And were you always particularly athletic?
Yeah, I was pretty athletic as a kid, and I was one of the biggest in the class. I was quite tall. I don't know if I've grown much since I was about 14, but I was always very athletic. My parents were athletic, and I was passionate about it, which was the main thing.
And do you remember any early races or anything like that, or a moment perhaps where you realised, wow, I'm actually pretty talented at this?
Yeah, I used to win everything on sports day, but I came from such a small rural mid Wales town that there wasn't many people that I was competing against. So my parents used to take me all over the country to make me compete against lots of other girls that were better than me as well, to learn from a young age that you can't always just win everything. There's one race in particular that we always recall on, and it was in Much Wenlock. And I raced and I lost, and I think this is probably where my mum and dad realised they needed to get me out of the small town and compete against other girls, because I was really upset that I hadn't won the race, and apparently I was saying it was because my ankle was hurting, and my mum said to me, she said, Adele, does your ankle really hurt, or are you just upset that you lost? And she said that when I was crying and I told her it was because I lost, she said that she never wanted me to make excuses ever again, and that she wouldn't bring me to another race if I was going to make excuses. So she asked me what I wanted to do. Did I want to get back up and come again next week, or did I want to cry and go home? And I said I wanted to come back next week. So from that point, at a very early age, I began to learn how to lose and how to deal with that, and then how to get back up and go again.
They're amazing foundations really for such a good career. It is a recurring theme that we see on this podcast, that there's so much talent out there, but not a lot of it actually makes it through into competing at the highest level. Do you think that's sort of based around that same issue?
I think a lot of the problems with dropout rates of children doing sport and then not quite making it through the transfer into senior level is to do with not being prepared and equipped to be resilient enough to deal with the demands of sport. And that's not just the physical demands, that is the mental demands of sport. And it can be really difficult. You will come up against things that you just never anticipated. And I think that it's important for parents as well to help with the development of their child, to let them know that it's normal to not win everything, and that actually having failure doesn't mean that you are a failure. It just means that you've taken a loss, but learn from it and use your losses as lessons to go forward and be better at the next event. That's
amazing. And like I said before, that's exactly the ingredients you need to kind of carry on and make it at the top. What would be the level, do you think, where you kind of first meet that solid competition nationally? Because obviously you start out locally, then you go on to your nationals and then move on to internationals. Is it when it jumps to nationals and you start to think, bloody hell?
There's a lot of people out here. Yeah, likely. I think this is different for everyone. I think everyone will have their own journey and their own markers of when those things happen. For me, it was probably when, leaving the local area, going up to national level and seeing that there's a huge pool out there and you're just a small fish in a big pond, but it doesn't really matter the size of the fish, just matters how hard you're going to work and what you're prepared to do to get the results that you want.
Perfect. So obviously you started out doing basically every sport you could get your hands on, and then eventually settled on shot put. How did that come about?
Well, in the multi-events, in the pentathlon, shot put was one of the events, and I always used to get so many points in that particular event that it used to bring me back into the top rankings. And to be fair, I was pretty decent at the other events, and the sprints was also one of my strong events, so I never used to be far from the top, but after the shot put, it would always put me back in the running. And I used to rely on my shot put points to keep me ahead for the 800 metres. So we used to go into the 800 metres, which was the last event, and my dad would be like, right, we're ahead by this much. You only need to lose the 800 metres by this many seconds and you still win. So that was what it was. It was a case of the shot put being my strongest event, and we saw great potential there. And I was then made aware that there was these competitions called World Youth Championships and European Junior Championships, and I decided that, I didn't mind what event I did. I just wanted to be the best at something. So I decided to specialise in shot put. I still did discus as well. And I made my first World Youth Championships when I was 16 years old.
That's incredible. And I believe that you have the record at just about every level there is for Welsh shot put.
Yeah, so I hold a lot of age group records in the shot put, and actually I think I probably still have some in other events. When I was under 13s, I had loads of random ones, like the long jump and the sprint hurdles and 60 metres, that kind of thing. They may have been broken now, but I had a solid base of records as a junior.
That's amazing, and obviously that gives you the confidence then to take it on to the next level. What would you say your best achievement in shot put is to date?
To be honest, it's probably very recent, and I've won so many competitions in shot put over the years, but to me, winning the competitions would never be my greatest achievement. For me, the greatest achievement, because of I know what it took to get to this point, is being selected for the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, and that is purely because of how I had to get here. I went through a lot of things in the last 8 years that I've got back up on my feet, and every single day turned up. And for me, just showing up to training and turning up even when things aren't going right, that's kind of what defines a champion.
That's amazing. And obviously the Commonwealth Games is huge. It's in Britain. You'll be competing in front of what's pretty much a home crowd. Are you looking forward to that?
Massively. I actually represent Birchfield Harriers, who are based in Birmingham, so it really is a home games for me.
Wow, that's amazing. And obviously the tickets are like gold dust at the moment. Are you hoping to get a few of your family members there?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm hoping to get my hands on a few more tickets. It is the night of the 100 metre finals as well, so it's going to be an absolute sellout. So I'm hoping the atmosphere is going to be incredible when I'm competing.
I imagine it will be. So I'd like to delve in a little bit to the mechanics of the shot put and about where you're generating that power, because obviously you're throwing such a heavy ball. How heavy is the ball?
So the ball is 4 kilograms for women, and it would be 7.26 kilograms for men.
Oh, wow. And what would be your record throw for that?
So my personal best at the moment is 17 metres 17, but I'm really hoping that by the time the Commonwealth Games comes around, I'll have a new personal best.
Oh, wow. That is just an unbelievable amount that you can throw the ball. Is there any particular technique that you look to nail, or is there a point within that technique where you really generate the most power?
Yeah, so I currently use the gliding technique. So there's 2 techniques you can use, rotational or glide. I am probably going to try the rotational technique over the next 4 years, but right now the glide is the technique that I use. And the glide is somewhere where you're in a linear movement, and we actually call it the power position when you get into the middle of the circle. So you're at the back of the circle, you push off of one leg, you land in the middle, and we call that the power position. And the way that you get power from that position is keeping your shoulders back and keeping extremely wrapped up and creating as much torque as you possibly can. Getting the right leg underneath you. So it kind of goes, basics is ankle, knee, hip, right underneath each other, lining it all up, keeping the shot put behind the hip, and then you're wrapped up, ready to explode out of the middle.
That's amazing, and it actually links quite well into the other sport that you're now specialising in. So obviously you've been to the Olympics last time round for bobsleigh. How was that?
That was an incredible experience, and to be at an Olympic Games just I think 18 months maximum after ever trying the sport was just a turbulent journey for me. There was so many things that I needed to achieve along the way, but I think that actually in itself shows the importance of short-term goals, because I had a long-term goal of getting to the Olympic Games, but to get to there from absolutely nothing involved a lot of steps along the way. So I had many challenges for myself, and I think that's really what kept me focused. I had a challenge every day, I had a goal every week, a goal every month, and as soon as I ticked them off, it was like I would just kept ticking goals off, and then I found myself at the Olympic Games, and I'd followed my journey. And I think that's really important to note as well, that it was my journey, and you should never compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
That is very good advice, and with such an incredible turnaround from obviously never having tried the sport to within 18 months competing at an Olympics in it, what would you say was the steepest learning curve?
Well, initially I had to lose 2.5 stone to be at race weight. Wow. So that was an extremely steep curve. I had to well, I didn't have to, but this I think shows my determination as an individual. I could have sought help elsewhere for the nutrition, but I decided to learn myself. So I actually then became a qualified nutrition coach from that, because I just wanted to learn as much as I possibly could, because I feel like knowledge is power, and it might sound so cliche, but the more that you can find out, the better equipped you are to achieve your goal. So for me, it was not about just doing it, it was about understanding how I was doing it, and it just made me an all-round better athlete.
It's amazing that you go that deeply into it. Do you think, and obviously you've graduated with a master's in psychology, yeah. Is that something that you draw from in your sport and life?
I think so. I didn't really know what I wanted to do as a career when I left school, because I enjoyed loads of different subjects. But for me, I think that I grew up, and just to me being some of the psychological traits and characteristics that I have as an elite athlete, I just thought was normal and it was a given. And I think as soon as I realised that not everyone was that invested in certain things, not everybody cared to complete tasks to the best of their ability all the time, when I realised that that wasn't a normal trait, I think I became more interested in psychology. And then when I started experiencing adversity, and I always found it like difficult, but I always found, to me, there was no other option than to get back up and try again. And I think then I was really interested in resilience, because again, resilience isn't something that everyone has or finds easy. So my interest, I think, came from learning about myself and learning that it probably wasn't normal.
Definitely. And one of the most important things, obviously, to overcome the obstacles that face us is to understand how we're processing them internally. So one of the biggest things when I watch bobsleigh, it looks terrifying. I don't know, how fast are you going?
You can go up to about 140 kilometers an hour,
which is just crazy to me. So how do you deal with the fear of that, or do you not feel the fear?
I always say I've not got a fear of things like heights or speed or anything that is thrilling. I've not got a fear of it. I would say that my fear of it would be very rational, like, okay, there's a big chance that this is a injury risk here, or potentially worse. So I feel that, but I genuinely don't think, like, if someone puts a task in front of me, I don't think I have it in me to say I'm not doing that. And that's probably why, I've got to where I am, because I've never turned down an opportunity, and I also just never back down. Even if I'm not going to be very good at it, I would want to give it a go. And I'd say I'm quite fearful, but only the fearful can be great. Fearless.
Yeah.
That was completely wrong.
Yeah, I got you.
Only the fearless can be great.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that I carry with me, because if you're not going to try it and you're scared to try it, you're never going to know.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have known. And obviously you had some really early successes in bobsleigh. I think it was your second ever tournament you got a silver medal. Is that right?
Yeah, my second ever race in the bobsleigh was at the World Cup in Sigulda, Latvia, and we got the silver medal, which was Britain's first World Cup medal in 13 years for female bobsleigh.
That's amazing. And obviously to take to it so quickly is pretty unheard of. Can you tell us a little bit about how the mechanics of shot put and bobsleigh kind of align with each other?
Mm-hmm. So bobsleigh and shot put are both power events. You have to be an absolute powerhouse to do both of them, and essentially it's moving a weight as fast as you possibly can. And obviously bobsleigh finishes with you getting in and shot put finishes with you throwing it. So they are very similar, and the training that's required to do both is very interlinked. The gym work is very similar, the speed work, the strength work. So even though they might seem dissimilar from the outside, what underpins both of them, like physicality wise, is extremely similar.
Wow. And how often are you training at the moment?
I train 6 days a week and sometimes double sessions a day.
Wow. And obviously how does that work with, so if you're a summer athlete you get the winter off, if you're a winter athlete you get the summer off? It sounds like you don't get any time off.
I get probably 3 weeks a year.
Right, okay.
But I don't know. I just manage it. Everyone always asks me how I manage life, but from a young age, even before doing bobsleigh, I have never just done one thing. I've always been working on something simultaneously. So when I was, before I was doing bobsleigh, I was doing my master's degree full time. I was working full time hours, and I was training for international level for shot put. So I've always managed a lot of things at once. So I'd say probably time management is key to my journey.
I'd imagine so, yeah. It'll have to be. What motivates you to do this? Because I mean, just the motivation and dedication it takes to do one sport, never mind two. I'm curious.
I think a lot of my motivation is intrinsic, and that comes from not seeking validation from anybody else and not actually caring overly of the tangible rewards that you get, like medals and things like that, or money, because actually I've done this sport for so long now and it's not a money earning sport, unless you are Olympic champion, winning international medals and getting sponsors. That obviously then would bring in some finance, but at this point to now, my career now is starting to take off, but all of the years it's taken since I was 9, it's definitely, the motivation is intrinsic, because you don't get much out of the sport other than how you feel, and I just feel like I've always wanted to be better every day.
That's amazing. So one of the most common things that comes up in the podcast is funding, and obviously, as you said there, once you reach the very top of the tree, then the funding comes, but obviously the amount of money that it takes to get to that point.
Yeah.
Obviously Sports for Champions looks to help athletes with exactly this. Could you tell us a little bit about how Sports for Champions will help you?
Sports for Champions is honestly such a positive thing for athletes like myself, because it helps us in terms of, I've done jobs where I've been washing up for like £4 or £5 an hour. I bought my first car from a job where I was washing up and waitressing for £4.10 an hour. That's a lot of hours to buy a car. But I needed it to be able to get to training. I've worked behind bars where I've been on shift until early hours of the morning, my feet absolutely throbbing. I've been a receptionist, I've done administration, I've done healthcare, I've worked in mental health hospitals and units, and I've done so many different jobs that pay very basic but require a lot of hard work, and trying to do those jobs whilst balancing a full-time athlete career, it just doesn't go hand in hand. And I feel like what the big difference is in my recent success is that I've been able to put my training and my athletic training and career first, because I'm not working those jobs anymore. And it's companies like, so Sports for Champions is a company that allows me to train but also get money and finance my career in a way that supports my career. So I'm doing something, I'm just talking about my career when I go into schools, I'm teaching other children athletic skills, and that complements my athletic journey rather than standing in the kitchen washing up.
Yeah, it's so great for us to hear that it's giving you the platform to put in that hard work, because obviously there's plenty of talented people out there, but without having the room to put that hard work in, you're never going to get anywhere. How do you see the role of talent and hard work playing off against each other?
So I was a talented youngster, and I think it showcases how important hard work is, that I did work hard as well as being talented, but it got to a point where in 2017 I won my first big international medal at the European Under-23 Cup, and after that not much progression happened, and it's because I came out of Under-23s. It is really interesting that that was like my last competition at an age group, so the Under-23s. After that you go into seniors, and then you're thrown into the deep end and you're in a big pool of people. And that is when I kind of had a bit of a stagnant phase, and I didn't get selected for an international, didn't get selected for Commonwealth Games, and things started to become very apparent that to get to the next level in sport I needed to work harder, and talent was not going to take me all the way. It took me some of the way, but if I wasn't going to be using the keys that I had to unlock my potential, I was never going to get anywhere. So I really had to step it up, and honestly in the last 2 years I've worked harder than ever before, and I can say that like hand on heart, that's so genuine. Whereas before, reflecting on the work I was putting in before 2020, I couldn't tell you hand on heart I was working as hard as I could have been, and that's the difference in me being an Olympic athlete within 18 months.
That's incredible. And then, so you kind of stripped it all back. You've gone and you've learned about nutrition and that kind of thing. How big a role? I'll start that again. So you've stripped it all back. You've gone away and you've learned about nutrition and things like that. How big a role would you say nutrition has played in sort of your revolution as an athlete?
I think people are always searching for 1% that make them better. And that's great, but really to be at a point where you're looking at what 1% are going to make you better, like which spikes are going to make you run faster, or which suits are more aerodynamic. I think first of all you need to look at, are you getting the right sleep and are you getting the right nutrition? Because without those two basics there's no point looking at the 1%. And I always talk about this kind of pyramid, and nutrition and sleep are right at the bottom, but not because they're least important, but because they are your base. And without the base you're not going to be able to build a strong pyramid. You need that base of fundamentals to get to the top.
Definitely. And do you have a favourite go-to meal, maybe post-training, something like that?
I'm honestly not fussy with food at all, so I eat anything. I do love salmon, but I love sweet chilli. So sweet chilli, salmon, salad and rice, that's like...
I'm fully with you on that for sure. And do you have a favourite cheat meal, maybe after competition, after you've been so strict for so long?
Again, I love all food, so a cheat meal's hard. It just depends what I'm fancying on the day.
And do you think that the life of a professional athlete is tough compared to maybe other professions?
It's tough, but I wouldn't say it's more tough. It's just different, and it depends, what it is that you want. I've worked in other industries that are extremely tough, and I could not do that for a career. I could not do that for the rest of my life, and that's why I have massive respect for people in other industries, but this is my thing, and I wouldn't say it's more difficult because I enjoy it. And I think when you wake up every day and you get to do what you love, it's not a chore.
Yeah, definitely. Well, even though you do love it, there is a lot of sacrifices that come hand in hand with that kind of thing. Is there anything in particular that you feel that you sacrificed that maybe you wish you could enjoy, or maybe you're looking forward to when your career finally finishes?
Yeah, I think for me, what was really heartbreaking was when I finished my master's degree, I really wanted to enroll into my doctorate straight away, and I was super keen for that. I did so much research into it. I even made contact with Birmingham University scholarship team about my sport, and I was really looking forward to it. And I've actually spoken to other universities as well. And it was hard for me to accept that actually it probably wasn't the right time, and had I have enrolled then I wouldn't have been able to apply myself as I have done in my sport. And I think I had to start making smart decisions. I'd worked so hard to get myself in a position where I was at a certain athletic level. I didn't want to do anything that would risk taking that away. So that was probably one of the biggest sacrifices. But also, you know, your everyday social life. I haven't had the normal social life of someone in their young 20s. But I have managed to find a way to socialise around my sport. But when I spoke about 2017, when I had a kind of stagnant few years, I also went to university then, and I probably prioritised socialising too much, which showed in my performance. So I think that it was just a reminder to me that you need to choose what kind of lifestyle you need to live, and make decisions every day that align with your goals. And as soon as I started doing that, then that's when I started getting the rewards.
It seems like you have made the right decisions all throughout your career. However, is there somebody in particular that you've looked up to, maybe a famous athlete or maybe somebody who's played a big part in your sporting life?
In terms of famous athletes that I don't know personally, my first memory of a role model was Kelly Holmes. I've read her autobiography a few times, and her autobiography is actually on my windowsill in my bedroom. I just think she's such an inspirational female in the sport, and I do believe that she was key and pivotal to the movement of female within this sport. And she was one of the first to dominate, and, you know, came away with a double gold at an Olympic Games. And even though her events are far away from mine, in terms of she did the 800 and 1500 and I'm a shot put thrower, I loved her story, and I found her journey and the adversity she's had to overcome very inspirational.
For sure. And would you have a favourite sporting quote?
I've got two. So one's not necessarily sporting. One is more to do with and can be applied across life. But that's, people may think that all of the doors have been opened in front of me, but I'm the one that pushed them open. And I think that's just great, because it just shows that the doors might be there for you, but unless you push them open, you're not going to get through them. It's not, you know, I haven't grown up with everything handed to me on a plate or a silver spoon in my mouth. I've worked hard for what I have, and I've earned my opportunities, and that just gives you such a better feeling that you know you've worked hard for it. The other one is, again, can be applied to anything, but success is not a comfortable procedure, so be prepared. No, success is not a comfortable procedure, so get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that is just so accurate, because honestly, this life is so up and down. 1 minute I'll be crying in tears, and the next minute I'll be over the moon. And I've taken so many more losses than I have wins, but the wins mean so much that you would take loss after loss after loss, as long as you are learning. As long as you are learning and you get back up on your feet and you go again, and every single day you turn up and give it 100%, that's what's most important. And I always say 100% doesn't have to mean personal best performance every single day. 100% is whatever you can give to me on that day, or whatever I can give. If that's 100% of me and that's my efforts that day, that's fine. You just keep going.
It's such an important message, especially for viewers being the age that they are. If you're a casual viewer of athletics, you might only see 10 seconds of somebody and then them celebrating afterwards, but you don't see the wider picture and the work that goes into actually achieving that. So if we could change pace a little bit, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the headspace that I imagine that you have to inhabit in order to get the most explosive movements for shot put. Is there sort of a well that you go to mentally, or something that you draw on in particular to get that explosive throw?
Yeah, I trialed a lot of different things over the last year to really, again, I had sorted my nutrition out, I'd sorted my sleep out, I'd sorted my training out. I was now in a position where I needed those 1% to make me even better. And I wanted to start trying different kind of self-talk methods. And I have a list of notes in my phone, which I really hope no one ever sees, but it is a list of affirmations of self-belief. And I just tell myself that I'm ready, I've done the work, and because I genuinely know I have done the work, reading these things is believable. I think what is important with self-talk is that it's realistic, and Because if you are telling yourself, oh, I've worked so hard for this, I deserve this, but if you know deep down you haven't been working hard for it, it's not going to be effective, because you'll know that you're lying and then you're not going to believe it. So it has to be realistic, it has to be relatable. And in this list, I just say, I'm ready, like, it's yours, go and get it, don't let anyone take it away from you. And those are the things that I will reiterate to myself over and over again. And if you see me in a shot put circle, or you see me at the start block of the Olympics, or any race, just know that in my head, I'm telling myself that I'm the best and I'm about to show it.
That's so cool. Is there a certain type of music that you listen to when you're building up to this kind of thing? Because we've talked to a lot of athletes, and some athletes maybe need to calm themselves down because they're starting from such a high point already, and then other athletes maybe need to get themselves up to that point. What's it like for you?
For me, I think the day starts with some chill music. I don't like to get my adrenaline running too early because I don't like to waste any energy. So start the day nice and chilled. Tempo of the music builds throughout the day, and then right before I'm going to throw, there are a few tracks that I'll play and really get me hyped up, ready to go.
Do you get the butterflies?
Yeah, and if I have butterflies, I know it's going to be a good day. And I think that's important because children sometimes, and adults, might think the butterflies is a negative thing, but when used correctly and when channeled into your performance, I think if you accept the butterflies, they'll help you fly.
And is there anything that you do after a particularly good performance?
After a good performance, I'm probably just buzzing, and do you know what? Normally it's a blur. The next day I'll be like, I can't even really remember what happened. But the first thing I always do, my mum gets a hug.
Of course. That's so cute.
There's so many pictures as well.
I can imagine. And do you think that being an athlete makes you a better person?
I think being an athlete teaches you responsibility, it teaches you interpersonal skills, it teaches you respect, integrity, so many values that can be applied to life and actually just make you a better human being. And
almost finally, do you have any advice for a young person maybe looking to get into a career in sport, maybe even if it's shot put specific or bobsleigh specific?
I think that as a child, and a young female, I dealt with a lot of negativity towards my body type and my events and things like that, and I think that it's taken me a really long time to build up confidence and build up an attitude where I can filter out meaningless comments, and what I would say is, don't let anybody else dictate your future. And if you are lucky enough to be given a talent in something, pursue it and do it unapologetically. Don't feel bad for doing something that you love or that you're good at. And never regret anything either, because there's been situations in the past where I feel like they've not gone to plan, or something hasn't gone my way, or whatever it is, but it always directs you down a path that has a meaning later on. And I think that you need to just trust the process. That is absolutely key. If you try and fight the process and you live life angry at life and angry at everyone, you're going to set yourself up to have such negative energy around you that you're just never going to see past that. So just keep your head, trust the process, and if you can try and be a person that you would like to look up to, that's all I can say. Like, as a woman now, I'm trying to be someone that as a younger girl I could look up to and be proud of. I think there was a lack of female sportswomen. I think there was a lack of females in sport to be able to look up to when I was younger, especially strong females. So if I can be that female for another little girl, that would be amazing.
That's such an important message. So finally, we'll wrap it up here. Do you have anything coming up? Obviously, you've got the Commonwealth Games. Is there anything else that you're looking forward to this year?
Yes, I am going to be piloting this winter for my first season ever, which is really exciting because it's the first part of my journey. I'm embarking on my career as a pilot in bobsleigh, so I'm looking forward to that. That will be probably October onwards. But first and foremost, I have the Commonwealth Games in August, and that is my full focus leading up to that.
That's brilliant. And anything big for the future? Any big goals or anything like that?
I'd love to start, even when I'm in sport, I'd love to start branching out to other areas. I'd love to do some TV work. I'd love to do lots of other media stuff, and also promote my own academy and start to grow my own name and brand, and just help all the other kids that, especially from Mid Wales, that's my goal, to make my area better in terms of developing sport.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. Best of luck for August. We'll all be watching, and I know that you'll do fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us. It's been another brilliant episode of the Sports for Champions podcast, and we'll see you soon for some more fun. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, be sure to leave us a like and a subscribe, and check out all our other videos for some more great interviews and content. Bye.